Okay, so I just got done watching HBO Max's documentary Persona on personality tests. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have social media. I had to go and pay for HBO Max. It popped up on my Google feed for the trailer for this documentary, and I was like, oh, look at that. My favorite YouTubers are in this. I'm gonna watch it. The show is relatively dark. I don't think they want you to like personality tests. And it's an emotional roller coaster. So they really try to toy with your emotions to get you to buy in to the evilness of these personality tests. The show basically is about organizational psychology and how they tap into human psyche to make corporations more money and make them run better. So I'm going to give you some history. The show uses myers-briggs and the type 5 indicator or whatever, and they kind of, or a combination of the two of them, because the show taps into how there are subsidiary companies that sort of make up their own personality tests to work with major corporations to get into their psyche to see if they're a good fit for the job or not. I don't really want to dive into too many specifics, but I do want to run through the history of Myers-Briggs because that's basically, there's a huge part of the show about that. So I think Myers-Briggs is definitely at the focal point here. It wasn't invented by two men. It was invented by two women, Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs. And I'm going to refer to Catherine as Kathy because, you know, her and I got a tight vibe. Kathy had 3 kids. Only one of them made it past infancy. That was Isabel. This was in 1897. Kathy thinks to herself after, you know, those tragic losses of her first 2 children, she's like, she realizes how fragile life is, and she starts to wonder what it means to bring a person into the world and to be a person in the world. And so she decides that she's going to study her daughter and she's going to make a personality assessment to, I don't know, that's her contribution to society. I don't know why the hell she wanted to do it. But as she's studying her daughter's every move and documenting it, she's doing this in what she calls the cosmic laboratory of baby training, aka her living room. So that's enough of that. Let's fast forward all the way to when her daughter is a teenager, I'm guessing, and she goes off to college. She's at home, you know, she's all depressed. She's like, damn, what do I do now? My daughter isn't here. I'm not doing anything. I can't study anybody anymore. So she reads in the New York Times. She finds an article by Carl Jung. And she finds an article by him that's titled Psychological Types. And she's entranced with his work. And she's totally inspired, and she's feeling a little self-deprecating. So she calls up her daughter. Wait, would she call her daughter? And the show said this was in 1923. So let me actually look that up. If I was actually a good YouTuber, I would learn how to not split my screen, but share my screen right now so you can see what I'm Googling. Let's type in, when was the telephone invented? 1876, it says. Okay. Well, this was in 1923, so like, okay, 40 or 50 years later, she may have called her. Or maybe she sent her a telegraph. I don't know. Maybe it was like that Hogwarts thing in Harry Potter where she stuck a note on the owl and just sent it away. Anyway, she says to Isabel, you need to come home. You need to be one of Carl Jung's disciples, and we need to take his work, his foundational work of basically typology, and we need to take this a step farther or further. I don't know what the difference is between those. And we need to cement this into something that everybody can use, right? And so Years later, I don't know why she waited so long, but Isabel, this was like in the early 1930s, World War II busted out, and she must have had at least 16 different friends, right? Because there's 16 different personality types in the Myers-Briggs system. Well, there's 16 types, but that's off of 8 functions that's multiplied by 2 because of the introverted extroverted dichotomy. Anyways, I can imagine what these questions were like. It's like if you were an introvert, who likes to work by themselves and doesn't want any human contact and like, don't bother me, I'm in the zone right now, then she figures that you would be using introverted intuition. On the other side of the spectrum, if you just can't shut up and maybe you're mad because your ugly coworker got the promotion over you and you're like, no, that was a bad move because I'm a better fit for the company and I need to be the face of this company. I don't know, maybe you'd be using extroverted feeling or something like that. So that's enough of that. I'm going to get into sort of the main plot. And as I stated earlier, the whole documentary is like an emotional roller coaster. It is noted that personality assessment is a multi-billion-dollar industry and is growing at 15% per year. Companies are using these tests as a way to buy time, and they consider this human capital. When they're investing in somebody to work for them, that's human capital. These tests are evaluating your mental health. It isn't fair for companies to assess your mental health aptitude on a pre-screening interview process to see if you're a good fit for the job. Everybody has mental health issues. I just read a paper in the article today about a local meteorologist here in town, and people were making fun of him and giving him hate mail and stuff because he was too skinny, and he actually does have an eating disorder. He's bipolar and he's got major depressive disorder, but yet, meteorologists, I think they wear makeup. They got their suits on. They're at their best. He's really candid. He's really funny. He has a good workflow and he's really informal. So you would never think that he has all these mental issues. Getting back to the emotional roller coaster thing that I was talking about, the show uses a guy named Kyle and his dad named as Roland. His dad is a lawyer. Kyle has bipolar and he keeps getting denied because he answers these personality assessments too honestly when he's trying to get a job. And his dad is going to fight for him because it's not right, and it's noted in the show that in the 1900s you used to have to take a polygraph test and not a psychological assessment to get a job, and then that was the polygraph test was outlawed. And so now I'm going to get into where AI sort of comes into play here. So there's a doctor named Nathan Mondragon, who's an industrial psychologist at HireVue, one of these subsidiary companies I was talking about. And they're working with technology that they like to refer to as facial action units, where it picks up on your facial expressions to determine if you've answered the psychological question that they're asking you honestly. And so an example of this would be the question asks, do you like your job? And there's basically 2 things that this crazy like camera facial action device is going to pick up on. And it's, yeah, I like my job. Yeah, I like my job. And see, there was subtle differences there between the 2, but if you just take the words out of it, for example, I kind of rolled my eyes around in the second one and I had to think about what I was going to say. They think that they could pick up on the lie that I was telling you that I liked my job. And so, as I was watching this in the show, the thing that came to my mind was, like when you take a breathalyzer, the state gives you a breathalyzer that they put in your car and it's attached to the engine or whatever, and you have to blow in it just to get your car to start, and there's a camera and everything in there. I had a buddy once who had to do this. And I kind of thought of that same thing, but instead of a breathalyzer, because you got a DWI, what happens if you I don't know, were being treated by a psychiatrist, you were on medication, you had a mental disorder, or even if you don't have all those things going on with you, just what happens if you're like me and you overthink a bunch, and you're just like on the extreme side of introversion, and you look into this facial recognition camera, and the feedback that you get is, you know what? This guy thinks way too much. He's way too neurotic to be on the roads. He's a threat to society. I would be absolutely screwed. I would be screwed. They would have to revoke my license. So I guess I'm not liking the AI. And again, the problem there is discrimination, because I don't know how you could possibly pick up on everybody's facial recognitions. Every culture is different. Everybody's going to react differently from where they come from in the world. Because there are some parts of the world where they view eye contact as not an engaging thing. So then there's this other part of the show where there's this guy named Andrew Fleming. He's a technology instructor, and he was teaching a class on how to I don't know. He was breaking down personality assessment and how companies use it. And so one of the questions on there is, I can't recall telling a lie in recent years. And I think the question was like yes or no, or maybe so, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And then it made me think, like, why can't you just fake these tests, right? Like, if you get a personality assessment, which I have had, but see, the jobs that I've applied for, you actually, come to think of it, I'll just tell you, I've had some different driving jobs in my day, and there have been actual driving jobs where they gave me a psychological assessment. I know pilots have to do this. You don't want your pilot having major mental issues going on, and then something crazy happens, like a suicide mission or something like that. But if you think about why is driving any different? I've had them, but they're not as potent, but maybe I just was smart enough to know how to cheat my way through them. I don't know, because I here's the thing, like when I take any sort of personality assessment when I'm applying for a job, I lie my ass off. I never tell the truth on those things. I can kind of tell what they're asking me, and I make myself sound like an extrovert. I'm super happy, outgoing. I think that not only do I have a bright future, but life in general. And I took the Big Five personality test. I scored 97% neurotic. So take that for what it's worth. Here's my opinion. The discrimination is real. The fact that companies are benefiting from this, basically calling us human capital and just trying to make a good investment on who they hire, just so that they can save perceived time and ultimately make their company more rich. When personality tests are used for that reason, for those reasons, then yeah, obviously it's a bad thing. And I don't really know what the answer is for that, especially when we have psychologists who are working on AI, trying to pick up facial recognition. I just think the future is kind of scary. There's going to be a lot of AI that's going to rule our world. So I guess my advice would be make finding your career your top priority, so that you can be there, and once all this crap breaks out, you will have been there for 30 years, and you have a reputation, and they can't touch you. I don't know, but all I know is I'm starting to get into personality assessment. I have some spirituality beliefs and whatnot, but this journey of self-discovery has been so uplifting, and I've learned so much about myself, and I'm so motivated and so intrigued by personality assessment, and I think it can be such a helpful tool for discovering how you process thoughts. And once you kind of figure out what the cognitive functions are, you can kind of see how the world works and how people end up in places that they do. I mean, I have YouTubers that are just starting out that I like to watch, and I'm like, hey, are you into Myers-Briggs? What's your personality type? And I'll type them, Um, and I'm not really, I don't have a great grasp or a great understanding of what all this stuff means, but I was right, because if you break down the functions, sensing, intuition, blah blah blah, you just kind of have to think, what the dichotomies are, and you can kind of figure it out, because you don't have to have there is no perfect meaning for what these functions mean. It's all subjective. That's why everybody hates it. That's why people are using it to their advantage. It's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo at the end of the day. But if you're using it for the best of intentions, like I think Isabel Briggs was doing, she just wanted to help people find a job so that this world can operate in peace and harmony, then it's an outstanding tool. And it just sucks that people always have to take advantage of things. But yeah, she had the best of intentions. So, anyways, if you stayed till the end of the video, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate your heart and soul, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one.